Hello everybody and welcome to another World Cup predictions video. It's time to do the other 4 games of the last 16. I've done the first 4 games already. You can see a link to that in the top corner right there. And by now you'll probably know if I'm doing all right or if I'm doing terrible. And if it's anything judged on the group stage, I'm probably doing pretty terrible. But so long as England get through and climb to glory in this World Cup, I'm sure we all don't mind. Just like in the other videos, I put timestamps down below, so if you want to jump to any game in particular, you are more than welcome to do that. I won't be offended. But if you stick around and watch the whole video, well, that'll be just swell. And speaking of thumbs up, if you could give this video a like, that also is great too. And if you like the content, think about subscribing. I had a nice little jump up from the first group's last 16 predictions video. Let's hope we can do that again. But let's not waste any more time hot dogging and grandstanding. Let's jump in to Morocco versus Spain. And let's start by looking at the Moroccans and in a World Cup full of shocks. And it has been so unpredictable. And that's my excuse for being bad at predictions. And I am sticking to it. Morocco winning their group may be the biggest shock of them all. I put a tweet out because I saw a very tenuous link done by the Sun newspaper comparing Morocco to my beloved Oxford United Football Club. And I kind of laughed at that. But after seeing Morocco storm through their group, maybe they're as good as Oxford United. Maybe. But this is the first time they have qualified since 1986, so there is your tenuous Oxford United link. And Valid Ragui, I'm sorry, I'm saying that name wrong, I just can't pronounce it properly. He deserves a heck of a lot of praise for not only getting out of the groups, but the style of football that they've played. The Atlas Lions have shown a superb amount of togetherness, organisation, and skill and will fancy their chances of beating Spain in this last 16. Expect to see Morocco line up in a 4-3-3, which is kind of matching Spain up, but when they're out of possession, I expect it to be more of a 4-1-4-1 and do kind of a low to mid block and try and stifle that Spanish midfield that likes to just control and tick over the game. Amrabat in midfield has been tremendous so far, and he is a real rock of this team, and they will need another stellar performance from him in this game. But going forward is where Morocco have been a joy to watch, actually. They've got so much energy and pace. It's been really impressive so far. And they'll look for the likes of Ziyech, who looks a real class act, to drop deep and either receive the ball and allow runners to run past him, like Hakimi, like Amla, or like Boufal, or they'll try and play some long balls and get these guys running in behind the fullbacks. I would actually say if Morocco can target Rodri, who's kind of a makeshift centre-back in that Spanish lineup, if he plays at centre-back, then that could be a sign of weakness and something they could exploit, especially if they get En-Nasri running one-on-one or in one-on-one situations with him. They is certainly Morocco's best route for goals. But they are underdogs. They are underdogs in this tie, coming up against a Spanish side who's had a bit of a weird campaign so far. After seeing them absolutely rip Costa Rica to shreds, it seems almost unbelievable that they finished second in their group with only 4 points. Against Germany and against Japan, they created a whole host of chances. So Luis Enrique has got to be a bit concerned at their failure to convert the amount of chances that they create. Almost certainly they're going to line up 4-3-3. They've done it for every game so far, and I think they have to start Morata alongside Asensio and Olmo to give them the best chance of scoring goals. I was actually surprised they took Morata off in the game against Japan when they needed a goal. But this is Spain, and Spain are rarely conventional, so don't be surprised if they line up with no centre-forwards, and they like to do things in their own way. Like, for example, what seemed weird, but is turning into an inspired choice of playing Rodri, who's a centre midfielder, at centre-back, which has really allowed Spain to help dictate the ball in midfield and dominate games. It gives them a really dynamic shape, but it also is something that can be exposed defensively. But Spain are all about their pressing and their high-intensity, very sharp, incisive passing, and that's been on point so far. It will need to be on point against this Morocco side, but there's no reason to think that it won't be. The likes of Gavi and Pedri have been really impressive for young players. You can see how well they've been coached from such a young age, and they're going to really pull the strings in this midfield, and do expect Spain to dominate possessions for large periods. It's just a matter of how much they can break this Morocco side down and whether they can take their chances. I see this one being tough, and when we get to predictions time, I see this one being a tougher game for Spain than people might predict. I actually think this one's going to go all the way to extra time, but I see the Spanish nicking it. Heartbreaking for the Atlas Lions, but I see Spain going through 2-1 after extra time. And you know what I've done? I've just realised I've done these games out of order. Oh well, let's carry on. It's time to look at Japan versus Croatia, which is taking place on Monday at 3 o'clock in the UK time. And let's start by looking at Japan. Wow, beat Germany, lose to Costa Rica, beat Spain. What the fuck, Japan? This is not the way you're supposed to do things. Hijami Moriyasu and his Japanese side will be declared as heroes for what they've done so far in the group stage, and they will think they can go one state further and beat this Croatia side. Japan will quite like the fact they're playing against a side like Croatia. It's quite similar to Germany and Spain, where they can sit off them and just let Croatia dominate possession and hit them on the break. We saw the game when they played against Costa Rica, when they had to force the pace of the game. They kind of struggled in that one. Japan really are like the football equivalent of rope-a-dope, like Muhammad Ali, or more famously, what The Undertaker did versus Kane at WrestleMania 14. You all remember that one, right? Right? Wrestling! But let's be real, and let's cut all the crap. Japan were lucky against Spain, and they were lucky against Germany, and they could have easily been 2 or 3 goals down by the time they did mount their comeback. Japan against Spain played a 3-3, but I think they may go back to a 4-2-3-1 in this game. It's very important that Japan don't let Modric dominate this game. That's easier said than done, and I think they should even try and man-mark him. Tomiyasu coming into this Japanese side will help if he's fully fit. He's been good for Arsenal so far, and he will certainly help them going forward and most certainly at the back as well. But Japan are used to soaking up a lot of pressure in this tournament, and when it clicks and when they go forward, they are like a tornado of speed. The way they move the ball so quickly and flood the box with players running from deep is really impressive. They've got the likes of Kamada, they've got Ito, Maeda, who can do it in the first half, and then the super subs seem to come on. Doan, Mitoma and Asenio in the second half. It's going to be another backs to the wall job against Japan, and it's just a matter of whether they lightning will strike 3 times in this instance, or whether they can get another fantastic comeback. But Croatia are, again, heavy favourites for this one, but it's fair to say they've not been great in this World Cup so far. They've got through the group stage, though, and I think they'll be hoping that they will kick on now and get better as the tournament goes on. As I said, with Japan, this game also suits Croatia quite nicely. It's a game where they can boss possession with their slow passing through the midfield, and then all of a sudden strike sides with a couple of incisive passes and be in behind. It's Croatia's fluid passing and fluent passing, which is really impressive. The only trouble is they have struggled to stick the ball away. We talked a little bit about this with Spain, but they've had similar problems too. They had a big win against Canada, but other than that, it's been games to nil against Belgium and against Morocco. Really, they don't have too many options in this regard, and they're going to have to keep going with Kramovic and hoping that he has another good day. They're not the most mobile side either, and so Japan will be thinking that if they can get around Modric, get around Brozovic, certainly Lovren in the back line as well, they could be in trouble there. So they don't need to leave those players exposed to any heavy pressing. And also Croatia don't really need to overcommit their fullbacks on either side, because if they do, they could be picked off and that could be a real problem. So Croatia just need to remain patient, rely on the passing that they've done for decades now, and pick their opportunities to wear this Japan side down and get the job done. But when it comes to a prediction, let's be bold and let's be crazy, and let's just hope this fairy tale for Japan continues and they can catch Croatia cold with another comeback. I'm calling it right here. Let's do it again. Croatia 1, Japan 2. Moving on to the third game is Brazil versus South Korea, and it is another David versus Goliath match. But maybe this time, David will win. Whilst Brazil are heavy favourites, it's fair to say they haven't been amazing in this World Cup either. They did a good job in the first 2 games, but maybe that slap across the face in that 1-0 defeat to Cameroon will just wake them up a little bit and make them, you know, a bit of a wounded tiger and make them realise that they need to improve in these knockout phases. Will Neymar play? I don't think he will. I don't think they're going to risk him in this one. I think they'll fancy the chance of getting through without him and maybe bring him back in for the quarterfinals. So I think Brazil will carry on with a 4-3-3 with Fred and with Casemiro in that midfield. It does leave Brazil looking a little bit laboured in their approach play, and they really need the likes of Sandro and Militao to get up from fullback to support Rafinha and Vinicius Jr., and mainly so they can get some service into Richarlison. We saw when they got service into him against Serbia in the opening game, what a quality finisher he can be. Almost defies logic of what we see in the Premier League at times. But they need to keep doing that. They need to keep getting this ball into Richarlison so he can give service. But he wasn't great also against Switzerland in the second game. So he's a little bit inconsistent. So Brazil, you've got to feel at some point that they are going to start sticking chances away. They've been a little bit wasteful. They've got far too many talented players and they create far too many chances for this to carry on continuing. Now, yes, they need to be a little bit wary of South Korea's breakaway speed in transition and get behind their defence. But basically, Brazil, I think, will be very confident that they will have too much for this South Korea side. South Korea should rightly celebrate getting through to the last 16. And any time you can leave Luis Suarez crying on the touchline, I think that is a win for the world of football. But let's not beat around the bush. This is going to be tough, and the group stage was tough, and this is not going to get any easier for them. How are Korea going to lay a glove on this Brazil side? It's safe to assume that they are going to have to soak up a lot of pressure at times in this game, but I don't think Korea are good enough to just sit back and defend and just let Brazil dictate terms for them for the whole 90 minutes. They've got to try and get out. They've got to try and press a little bit higher up the pitch, press that back line, press that midfield, win the ball up high and play in transition. They've got the players that can play, that keep a high energy press for a long time. So I'd like to see them be brave and adventurous and try and execute this. I expect Korea to play 4-3-3 and similarly what we said to Japan. I like the way they attack with so much speed. They've got so much speed in their passing and their movement, and they get people up supporting, which is really, really key. Stating the absolute bloody obvious, but Son needs to play well in this game and they need to get him the ball as often as they can. If they get him the ball in transition, you know what he's like. He can get the ball from deep and drive at this Brazil defence and glide past people like he does. He's a devastating finisher, but also you can have the tactic of him running in behind the fullbacks and dragging the centre-backs out wide. The likes of Cho and Lee can also do this job for Korea as well. I do get the feeling that Korea are going to go out and give this a go. I don't think they're a side that's going to sit back and die wondering. I think they're going to try and go out and get in Brazil's face and make this a difficult game for them. However, if you're coming to a prediction, you can't not back Brazil, I don't think. It would be great if South Korea could pull this off, but I'm going for a Brazil win. I'm going for Brazil 2, South Korea 1. Final game we're talking about is Portugal versus Switzerland. Both these sides like a bit of a scrap, so I would expect a fiery encounter in this one. I thought there would be a heck of a lot of Euro versus Euro last 16 matches, but this is only one of 2 that we are getting in the last 16. Portugal, let's start talking about them. And like what we said about a lot of the big teams in this tournament, they've done enough to get through the group stages without being amazing, and they're going to hope that they can improve now and get better as the tournament goes on. I still have a problem with Ronaldo in this side and how he slows them down, but against a tough Switzerland side, I think they need him in this game up top. Portugal have basically played 4-3-3, but sometimes they drop Bruno Fernandes back into like a 10 role behind, but I'd like to see him play higher up the pitch and play wide rather than that 10 role. I feel that Switzerland's defence struggles with crosses coming into the box. I like the fact that Fernandes can stay wide. You can get Bernardo Silva, you can get Cancelo forward as well, supplying balls into the box to Ronaldo, and you know how brilliant he is in the air, even if he does claim goals that don't hit his head. And he can finish off chances, done it for donkey's years. But Portugal need to be wary of these Swiss playmakers in behind, getting in pockets of space in behind their midfield and their defence. So Neves and Carvalho have to do a good job of screening that back four to stop Switzerland from dictating terms in that regards. And as we move on to talk about Switzerland, I just think to myself, why did I ever not back Switzerland to qualify? I'm so dumb to think that they would go out. They always find a way, and maybe the fact that they are constantly underrated is their biggest strength. But the fighting spirit in this Swiss side should never be in question. But they're not just a battling side. The balance of this side by Murat Yakin is really quite a joy to watch at times. And I think they're going to be a very tough side to remove from this tournament. They're going to play in a 4-2-3-1, and they're going to have Xhaka and they're going to have Freuler dividing that nice screen in front of the back four. But for me, the most impressive player in this Swiss lineup has been Briel and Bolo up front. I think he's been great. In a tournament starved of out-and-out number 9s, he seemed like he can do it all. His hold-up play has been really good, which gets Switzerland up the pitch, which allows the likes of Sal, Vargas and Shaqiri to flourish. But Mbolo has also proved that he can be a lethal finisher, getting in the box and finishing off chances. This game is going to be tough. It's going to be really tight, and I can see this one. This is going to be a game that goes all the way to penalties. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw after extra time. It goes to pens. And I'm sorry to say, I don't know why I'm saying sorry to say, I'm going to go with Ronaldo being clutch in these moments, and he is going to get his Portugal side through, stepping up to take that 5th and final penalty. He loves it, doesn't he? Portugal to go through on penalties, but really, coin flip. And that will do it for my predictions for the last 16. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know down in the comments. And once again, if you can hit like on this video, please do so. And if you like the content, think about subscribing. That also helps me out a lot. I'm going to be doing some live streams with Grandstand Betters over the coming few days that I've done for other World Cup games. So go and check out their channel. The links are down in the description and a little link is on the screen now. But that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.